The British royal family has officially ended its period of patience and tolerance. According to a leaked internal statement from Kensington Palace, Prince William issued a firm warning that effectively shuts down any further attempts at reconciliation. In my opinion, this marks a significant shift. Prince Andrew is no longer the only example of someone being cast aside. Harry is now positioned as living proof that the royal institution will not hesitate to sideline anyone who tries to turn family pain into a commodity. The interesting thing I've found is how this statement goes beyond simple punishment. It represents a full break in blood ties, all in the name of safeguarding the monarchy's future. While Harry appears to be working through his past in Melbourne, back in London, William is taking decisive steps to remove his brother from the privileges associated with the Windsor dynasty. April 2026 is likely to be remembered in royal history not for grand ceremonies, but for this irreversible fracture within the family. As darkness settled over Kensington Palace, the usual silence no longer represented quiet endurance. Instead, it signaled the approach of a major storm of consequences. Prince William, long seen as the steadfast protector of the monarchy, has moved away from neutrality to fight what he views as an existential threat to the institution's survival. The trigger for this intense reaction was Prince Harry's candid and controversial speech at the International Mental Health Summit in Melbourne, Australia. Before a large audience of over 5,000 delegates and millions more online, Harry conducted a deeply personal and critical examination of his family. He spoke about the need to cleanse himself from what he called a Windsor bloodline, tainted by emotional indifference. Harry portrayed his father, King Charles III, not as a figure of duty and service, but as someone whose obsession with the crown had stifled genuine fatherhood. These remarks struck at the heart of the monarchy itself. He famously stated that his father loved the crown more than his own children, describing Charles as a capable king but a father trapped by a rigid system that left little room for human emotion. The drama intensified when Harry revisited the painful chapter of Princess Diana's death. Using archival footage, including slow-motion images of the young princes walking behind their mother's coffin in 1997, he highlighted the trauma inflicted by the system on royal children. In doing so, he pulled William into the narrative as a fellow victim, something William had never publicly endorsed. Harry remarked with calculated empathy that he and his brother were two pieces of the same shattered soul, noting that while he had chosen freedom, William remained trapped behind the mask of a future king. For William, this crossed a serious line from shared grief into character assassination. By painting his brother as a reluctant prisoner of duty, Harry indirectly raised questions about William's emotional resilience and fitness to lead. In my opinion, the most provocative part was when Harry asked the audience whether a man unable to confront his own trauma could truly have the psychological strength to guide a nation. This framing risked reshaping public perception of William from a pillar of stability to someone weakened by unhealed scars. This time, Kensington Palace did not respond with the familiar "recollections may vary" approach. Instead, sources close to William described his reaction as one of deep disgust at seeing private family pain monetized for personal gain and publicity. A pointed statement emphasized personal responsibility. The difference between maturity and immaturity lies in whether one uses pain to build character or to sell tickets and events. It warned against exploiting silence for profit. William has now drawn a firm boundary. He has reportedly initiated a protocol of severance to fully isolate Harry and Meghan from the monarchy's structures. This includes legal reviews to prevent the couple from leveraging their Sussex titles for commercial ventures, which he sees as diminishing the dignity of a centuries-old institution. The repercussions from the institution have gone far beyond personal matters, reaching into security and diplomatic realms as well. In my opinion, Prince William has taken decisive action by directing British diplomatic missions around the world to treat any trips by the Sussexes as strictly private visits. This means no government support, no diplomatic protection, and no official recognition from host countries. Any leftover security cooperation has been cut off permanently. The interesting thing I found is how firmly William has positioned Harry. No longer as a working member of the royal family, but as a living example of the consequences for those who attack the institution from within. He referenced Prince Andrew as a precedent, yet argued that Harry's actions represent a deeper ideological threat that must be confronted and neutralized at its root. Reports from London highlighted that Harry's timing was particularly cruel. While the Princess of Wales, Catherine, was devoting all her energy to cancer treatment, and King Charles III was dealing with his own serious health challenges, Harry chose to strike from Australia. This has been widely viewed as predatory behavior. The British public feels deeply insulted watching Harry try to distance himself from, and even cleanse, the very Windsor bloodline that is currently battling illness while shouldering the heavy burden of national duty. What stands out to me is William's evolving perspective. He no longer sees Harry as a confused brother, but as a commercial operator attempting to build a rival dynasty on the ruins of his own family. For William, this conflict has reached its final stage, one of absolute severance to safeguard the crown. The atmosphere inside the royal family has shifted, from weary damage control to a calculated effort to build a total institutional firewall. The second phase of this escalating feud centers on the ideological weight of Prince Harry's Melbourne manifesto, a speech that experts are now describing as a psychological coup. By using the International Mental Health Summit as his stage, Harry didn't simply share a personal story. He tried to redefine the British monarchy's heritage, portraying it as a source of generational toxicity. This transformed what was once a private rift into a public crusade for emotional liberation, a move the palace sees as a direct assault on the moral authority of the king. The core of Harry's address was the theme of cleansing. Speaking in the language of modern therapy, he presented himself as someone ritually purging his past. He described his royal identity as a shadow that needed to be cast off to protect his future and that of his son, Archie. This narrative carries a sharp subtext. It suggests the monarchy itself is inherently unclean or damaging. By claiming he had to cleanse himself of the Windsor legacy to become a better father, Harry delivered a devastating insult to King Charles III's parenting and the centuries of tradition he holds dear. It was a public rejection of his heritage, delivered before 5,000 experts to give it the gravity of a clinical judgment. The most calculated strike, in my view, was Harry's metaphor of the crown as a thorny ring. By stripping the monarchy of its dignity and recasting it as an instrument of torture, he directly attacked the king's lifelong commitment to duty. He painted Charles as a man imprisoned by documents and protocols, someone who chose formal duty over emotional warmth. His vivid memory of Charles offering only a perfunctory pat on the knee instead of a hug after Princess Diana's death was clearly designed to appeal to modern audiences who value emotional openness. By contrasting this with his own supposedly liberated parenting of Archie, Harry cast himself as the one who broke the cycle of pain, effectively labeling the king as the main source of a toxic legacy. However, the real indignation in London comes from what many see as hypocrisy in this so-called cleansing. While Harry claims to be freeing himself from his royal past, he continues to benefit from the prestige and global platform that only that past provides. William has reportedly noted that Harry is cleansing the history, but still clinging to the letterhead. This contradiction, attacking the institution, while profiting from its titles, has become the cornerstone of the palace's response. William, views this as a character assassination of their father at a moment when the king's health makes any defense look either petty or weak. The psychological warfare even reached the next generation, with Harry claiming that the ghost of Charles still haunts his efforts to be a good father. By using his son Archie as a symbolic shield, Harry suggested that his disconnection from his child was a direct result of the monarchy's systemic failures. William, who has worked hard to give his own children a stable and private upbringing, sees this public exploitation of Archie's well-being as an unforgivable betrayal. Overall, the palace now appears fully prepared to treat the situation as an existential threat, requiring complete separation. In my opinion, the ongoing rift has become something of a generational poison, one that ultimately pushed William to finalize what many call the Protocol of Severance. To the British establishment, Harry is no longer viewed merely as a disgruntled younger brother. He has positioned himself as a rival architect, actively constructing an alternative court that challenges the traditional monarchy. The interesting thing I found is how Harry, drawing on the currency of trauma, essentially threw down a gauntlet at the feet of the future king during his Melbourne speech. By presenting himself as the voice for the silenced, he tried to seize control of the narrative and impose a label of victimhood onto William, a man who has deliberately chosen the path of stoic duty. This ideological divide now feels like an unbridgeable chasm. As the Sussexes push ahead with their pseudo-royal tour, the palace has come to the realization that silence is no longer a workable strategy. The cleansing of Harry's past has demanded a corresponding cleansing of the monarchy's future, one that excludes the Duke and Duchess of Sussex entirely, whether in commercial or ceremonial roles. This unfolding constitutional crisis touches on what royal historians and palace insiders describe as the weaponization of memory. While the first two phases of the conflict centered on emotional and ideological statements from Harry in Melbourne, the third phase dives into something far more tactical: his use of sensitive royal imagery. This move has destroyed the last remaining fragments of trust between the brothers. At the core of this escalation was Harry's unauthorized deployment of archival footage from Princess Diana's 1997 funeral. Rather than using it as a simple tribute, he presented it as visual evidence to support his claims of systemic royal cruelty. The interesting thing I found here is the stark contrast in perception. During the keynote at the International Mental Health Summit, the auditorium in Melbourne went dark as a high-definition, slow-motion reel played, showing the young princes walking behind their mother's coffin. For the audience, it delivered a moment of profound, though uncomfortable, cinematic power. But for William, watching from afar, it felt like a predatory intrusion into the most sacred private trauma. Harry didn't just honor his mother with those images. In my opinion, he weaponized them. By slowing the frames to highlight the micro-expressions of a 5-year-old William, he effectively dragged his brother back into the role of a grieving victim before a global audience, all under the banner of a commercial organization Harry represents. Veteran royal correspondents like Rebecca English have identified this as a clear breach of the unwritten code the brothers had maintained since 1997. Their shared grief would remain a private sanctuary, never to be leveraged for personal or professional gain. By breaking this pact, Harry has committed what William sees as the ultimate betrayal of the silent dignity their mother would have expected. William's anger stems from the realization that Harry is monetizing a trauma that doesn't belong solely to him. To William, projecting his 5-year-old self as a psychological casualty to support Harry's narrative feels like identity theft, an attempt to rewrite his own story of resilience. into one of brainwashed submission. The palace's response has been precise and surgical. Under William's direction, the Royal Archives have enacted a financial and logistical embargo on any future requests for historical material or personal correspondence coming from the Sussex side. If Harry views the institution as psychologically toxic, the reasoning goes, then he should no longer have access to its historical assets to power his commercial ventures. This is effectively an attempt to starve the Sussex operation of the raw material it needs. To remain relevant, the Prince of Wales is building a firewall around the family's history to prevent future Netflix documentaries or memoirs from exploiting the Crown's private records against living members of the monarchy. Furthermore, this phase underscores the provocative nature of the Sussexes' activities in Australia. By mimicking official state visits, laying wreaths at war memorials, and touring hospitals with the same formality as working royals, Harry and Meghan are accused of establishing a rival court. This half-in, half-out approach, which the late Queen Elizabeth II firmly rejected at the 2020 Sandringham Summit, has now reached its most blatant form. Meghan's visit to the Royal Children's Hospital, while presented as charitable, was quickly overshadowed by revelations of affiliate marketing links. The image of the Duchess of Sussex comforting sick children while reportedly earning commissions through Shop the Look features on her social media has been called a grotesque distortion of royal service. William's indignation, therefore, is not merely personal. It is deeply institutional. In my opinion, Prince William views Meghan's decision to leverage the ducal title for driving AI-powered fashion sales as the ultimate degradation of the monarchy's dignity. He has made it clear to King Charles III that the Sussex name is being used by the couple more like a flashy promotional logo than a symbol of genuine public service. The interesting thing I found is how this growing perception has directly fueled the creation of a final separation protocol, a set of deliberate steps aimed at stripping the Sussex brand of any lingering royal legitimacy, especially in commercial ventures. William's guiding mantra, "The title is for service, not for sale," has now become the core principle behind the palace's new policy of cold, firm exclusion. The fallout from the Melbourne speech has also damaged the couple's standing with a much wider Commonwealth audience. While Harry and Meghan anticipated a hero's welcome in Australia, the public response has turned increasingly skeptical. Major outlets in Sydney and Melbourne have popularized the ATM analogy, openly accusing the pair of treating Australia as little more than a profitable stopover for their American business interests. The many unsold tickets for Meghan's high-priced $3,000 women's retreat speak volumes about this shifting sentiment. What strikes me is how the famously straightforward Australian public, with its well-known tall poppy syndrome and aversion to pretentiousness, has started seeing through the therapeutic psychobabble in Harry's speech and the calculated timing of the entire tour. As William finalizes his red line policy, he is determined to create a future where the line between working royals and private celebrities is crystal clear and absolute. He sees Harry's attempts to dominate the international spotlight, while the Princess of Wales is sidelined as an opportunistic and predatory move that takes advantage of a vulnerable moment for the royal family. By portraying his own brother as a psychological victim to help build his commercial brand, Harry has effectively destroyed any remaining chance of reconciliation. The Windsor firewall is now fully in place, and William appears ready to protect the Crown's integrity, even if it requires permanently cutting brotherly ties. This is no longer simply a family feud. It is a fundamental battle over the meaning and future of the British monarchy in the 21st century. While this ideological conflict continues across the Commonwealth, a far more immediate and serious threat has emerged for Prince Harry in his new home, the United States. The so-called cleansing speech in Melbourne not only alienated the British establishment but also ignited a legal storm in Washington, D.C. that could dramatically reshape his future. The interesting thing I found here is the collision between Harry's very public admissions and his private legal status. His radical honesty in the memoir Spare, combined with the therapy-focused rhetoric in Australia, has now clashed directly with the strict rules of U.S. immigration law. The controversy revolves around his U.S. visa application and the apparent contradictions between what he formally declared to the Department of Homeland Security and his open discussions about past drug use. Under American immigration rules, such admissions can easily lead to visa denial or even deportation if officials determine the applicant was not fully truthful. By February 2026, petitions demanding the release of Harry's immigration records had reached a fever pitch. The central question is straightforward. Did the Duke of Sussex receive special treatment due to his royal status? The timing couldn't be worse for the Sussex brand. While Harry spoke in Melbourne about cleansing his soul, many Americans began questioning why a foreign prince seems exempt from the same rules that apply to everyone else. For Prince William and the palace, this legal situation is met with a mix of concern and a sense of inevitable consequences. Crucially, William has reportedly refused to let any royal diplomatic channels be used to help Harry fight his visa issues. His position is uncompromising. Harry wanted financial independence and a private citizen's life, so he must now face the American legal system exactly like any other private citizen, without the protection of the British Crown. This institutional isolation forms a key part of William's strategy. By keeping the palace completely firewalled from Harry's troubles, he is signaling to Washington that neither the British government nor the monarchy will intervene. This lack of diplomatic cover has left Harry in a precarious position. If records show any dishonesty or favoritism, the political pressure for action, potentially forcing his exit by June 2026, could become overwhelming. William is already preparing for the worst, making sure the monarchy's reputation remains protected from any fallout. In the end, the ghosts of Harry's past admissions appear to have finally caught up with him, and for the first time, he may truly be on his own. As the echoes of the Melbourne speech faded into a stark, business-like reality, the reaction from London shifted from raw emotional outrage to a precise, bureaucratic effort to dismantle whatever remained of the Sussex's royal connections. In my opinion, this fifth phase of the conflict represents a decisive turning point. It marks the formal launch of what's being called the Protocol of Severance, a thorough strategy led by Prince William to make the half-in, half-out arrangement not just discouraged, but structurally impossible. The interesting thing I found is how the Australian tour appears to have served as the final catalyst for William. It convinced him that Harry and Meghan would never willingly stop leveraging the Crown's prestige for their own financial gain. As a result, he has moved to convert the Sandringham Agreement from an informal gentleman's understanding into a binding legal framework. This effectively ends the couple's ability to function as a rival court on the global stage. One of the most forceful elements of this protocol is the commercial cease and desist approach. Under William's direction, palace lawyers are preparing formal institutional disclaimers to send to major corporations, streaming platforms, and talent agencies worldwide. These documents make it clear that the titles of Duke and Duchess of Sussex are considered dormant for any commercial purposes. William's position is straightforward. While these are peerages granted by the United Kingdom, they are not brands available for licensing in AI fashion apps or luxury retreats. By directly challenging the use of Duchess as a marketing tool, he is striking at the core of the Sussex business model. He has reportedly told advisors that once a title is used to sell products, it ceases to be a title and becomes a trademark, one that the Crown controls. Beyond the legal maneuvers, William has rolled out a strategy of diplomatic isolation. During the Australian tour, much of the Sussexes' perceived influence came from the quasi-royal treatment they orchestrated. To prevent repeats, the protocol includes a zero-support directive sent through the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, FCDO, for all future travel. British embassies and high commissions are now instructed to treat Harry and Meghan strictly as high-profile private citizens with no official representative role. This means no government security briefings, no diplomatic motorcades, and no formal engagement with local leaders. The interesting thing I found here is how effectively this strips away the royal aura from their trips, reducing them to standard celebrity promotional events and significantly lowering their value for future media contracts. The internal psychological dimension has also reached a point of no return. William has moved to close what he calls the victimhood loophole. He recognizes that Harry's commercial appeal depends on a continuous flow of new grievances and personal revelations. In response, a total digital and archival embargo has been implemented. Personal correspondence, old video footage, and private family records are now locked down. By cutting off access to fresh royal material, William aims to starve the Sussex content machine. The Prince of Wales seems no longer interested in engaging with Harry's narrative. Instead, he's choosing strategic silence, allowing their story to grow repetitive and eventually fade from public interest. Furthermore, William has started the process of protecting the line of succession. While fully removing someone from the succession requires an act of Parliament, something the king has been reluctant to pursue, he is exploring an internal covenant of duty. This would require top members of the line of succession to sign a binding pledge against commercial activities that undermine the Crown's neutrality. This places Harry in a difficult bind. He must either walk away from his lucrative U.S. deals or be viewed as incompatible with his position in the succession. William's firm stance stems directly from what he saw as Harry's attempt in Melbourne to undermine the monarchy's future. His actions are driven by a deep protective instinct toward Catherine, the Princess of Wales, and King Charles III. He reportedly viewed the Sussexes' moves during Catherine's recovery as opportunistic and predatory. In my opinion, by activating the protocol of severance, William is doing more than settling a sibling rift. He is building a firewall to safeguard the future of the House of Windsor. The clear message coming from Kensington Palace is one of cold finality. The Sussexes have chosen their path as private individuals, and the Windsor firewall will ensure they stay on the outside, permanently. The time when the rebels tried to cleanse the monarchy while still profiting from it is over. In my opinion, the era of half-measures and sentimental recollections has ended for good. The era of absolute separation has truly begun. The 2026 royal crisis stands as the pivotal moment when the British monarchy moved from a period of family mourning into one of institutional steel. As the dust settled after the Melbourne declarations, the global view of the House of Windsor shifted dramatically, shaped by the calm and calculated leadership of Prince William. The Windsor firewall is now fully in place. Permanent barrier meant to ensure the Sussex rebellion becomes nothing more than a historical footnote, rather than an ongoing threat. The interesting thing I found is how decisively this final chapter played out. The rival Sussex court has essentially collapsed, giving way to a new, uncompromising style of royal governance that draws a sharp line between duty and celebrity. The immediate result of this protocol of severance has been a harsh commercial winter for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. By June 2026, the loss of royal connections, diplomatic access, archival privileges, and mounting legal pressure on their titles triggered a steep collapse in their brand value. Their much-hyped Sydney luxury retreat, meant to be the crowning success of their Australian push, fizzled out with unsold tickets and widespread media mockery. The global audience, once hooked on the royal drama, now seems to be experiencing trauma fatigue. Without fresh royal conflict to fuel the story, Harry's narrative of cleansing and victimhood has started sounding repetitive and increasingly out of touch with a public facing its own economic and social struggles. The Sussexes now occupied the private citizen role they claimed to want, yet without the royal platform that once made their privacy so financially rewarding. In London, Prince William has skillfully steered the narrative back to the monarchy's core principles: service, silence, and stability. While Harry used the Melbourne stage to criticize his upbringing as rigid and emotionless, William has highlighted the quiet strength and stoic duty of the working royals, especially the Princess of Wales during her recovery and the King's dedication despite health challenges. This approach has made Harry's public soul-bearing appear more self-indulgent by comparison. The British public has largely rallied around this model of quiet strength. William's refusal to engage in a public media battle has been widely seen as a mark of genuine leadership. What strikes me is how effectively he demonstrated that the best response to a psychological challenge isn't retaliation, but dignified indifference. On the Commonwealth front, the impact has been equally significant. The Australian tour that Harry and Meghan hoped would position them as global ambassadors instead prompted member nations to demand more substance and less celebrity from royal figures. William's clear directive to treat the Sussexes as ordinary private citizens has effectively ended any possibility of future semi-royal tours. Governments in Canberra, Ottawa, and Wellington have taken note. Taxpayer-funded security and official platforms for the couple are no longer on offer. The half-in, half-out model is now dead across the board. As the legal deadline for Harry's U.S. visa records looms in late June 2026, the palace has stayed completely silent. By choosing non-intervention, William has allowed the consequences of Harry's choices to unfold in a court of law rather than through endless public debate. This hands-off approach completes the firewall. The institution will no longer shield those who try to profit from undermining it. In my opinion, the legacy of April 2026 will be remembered as the moment Prince William truly stepped up as guardian of the throne. He successfully steered the monarchy through its most serious internal threat since the 1936 abdication crisis. Through a policy of firm institutional isolation, he protected King Charles III's reign and secured the future of his own succession, clearing away the toxic fallout of the Sussex chapter. The Windsor firewall is now complete. The House of Windsor endured not by bending to celebrity culture, but by reinforcing the traditional boundaries that make it distinct. As Harry and Meghan stand on the outside looking in, the message from Kensington Palace is unmistakable. The crown is not for sale, the title is not a brand, and duty is not optional. The Royal Civil War has concluded with a quiet but decisive victory for the institution, leaving the Sussexes in the celebrity vacuum they helped create. My personal opinion, I see this as a very unfortunate family tragedy. Two brothers who should be supporting each other are instead trapped in a cycle of accusations, media leaks, and narrative battles. The public, especially YouTube viewers, is often fed black and white stories. One side is good, the other is evil. In reality, royal life is far more complex, involving trauma, institutional pressure, ego, and different visions for the future. Sensational headlines like this only make the situation worse by provoking emotions rather than providing balanced information. I prefer an honest approach. Both sides have made mistakes, both have their own reasons, and there will likely be no real winner in this conflict. That's my analysis of the latest developments in the Sussex versus Wales saga. Do you agree with my take, or do you have a different view? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoy this kind of content, honest and balanced royal news, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next update. Please share this video with your friends who also love British royal news, so our discussions can grow even bigger. Thank you so much for watching until the end. See you in the next video. Stay royal, stay classy. Bye!